then what are the different methods of performance appraisal, and at the last we will study a HCL performance appraisal strategy. So let's take a look towards the definition. So there are different definitions in different books. So according to the Braxer that he has taught in last time, so these were the two methods that he has taught us. But according to me, basically what I mean,
58 number.
Yes.
मतलब कुठे गेले 53 57 57 से तिकडे कुठे प्रोसेस ला आणि 53 पहिला गेला हो इथे टॉपिक तर मला राईटिंग दिसते हे काय क्लिअर दिसते सांगा जरा
So these are the two definitions that are mentioned in the different books. So what I understood is basically performance appraisal is like a report card for grown-ups who are working. So it is a way to assess, it's a way of your bosses to assess you about your work, your performance, what improvement you need, and what you can achieve more. So what is the purpose of performance appraisal? Salary decisions. So performance appraisal is mostly used in your salary to decide your salaries. So if someone is a good performer, let's say Sarvesh is a good performer and he is an underpaid. So according to the appraisal, they will decide his salary. If he is actually a good performer, they will increase his salary. Second one is job performance. They came to know about your job performance, how you are performing a particular task, what are you lagging in, and what are you good at. Third is minimizes communication gap. So when a management do your performance appraisal, they actually ask you a sort of questions. They actually assess you personally, so that reduces your communication gap. So fourth is promotion. Obviously, it helps you in your promotion. Fifth is your training and transfer. Let's say you're lagging in something, so they will assess you, they will train you to the particular skill, and they will train you how to implement it on your day-to-day operations. So now, what are the objectives of performance appraisal? Record employee performance to determine wages and incentives paid that we have discussed in the salary appraisal. So second is identify employees who have been placed on wrong jobs to transfer them to the job for which they are better suited. Third is facilitate employee to know his performance level and take steps to develop himself, training and development. So fourth is locate employees with adequate potential for promotion and development. Fifth is identify strengths, weaknesses of employee. So let's take a look at performance appraisal process. So the first one is establishing performance standard. So here, let's say the sales department has established a performance standard that you have to achieve 1 lakh per month as your goal. So that they have established a performance standard that you have to achieve at least this much of amount. Okay. Second is mutually set the measurable goals. So here, mostly employees and management come together to set up mutual goals. The basic two questions that are asked in this section is what can be achieved and what cannot be achieved. Third is measure actual performance. So you have to measure actual performance of an employee, how he is performing, what he is lagging at, what he needs to improve. So these are the things that come under measure actual performance. Fourth one is compare actual performance with standards. So compare your employee actual performance with the standard that you have set. For example, we three, like Vedant, Sarvesh and I. So we are 3 employees. Sarvesh has achieved 1 lakh of his target. So he is a good performer. Let's say I achieved 90,000. So I am an average performer. And if Vedant has achieved only half of it, 50%, that is 50,000. So he is an below average performer. So you have to compare that your employee with the standard that you have set. So the discuss appraisal with employee, as we have seen in the communication gap, it reduces communication gap. We have to discuss the appraisal with the employee, and we have to set a specific hierarchy. If employee is if employee has some doubts in the appraisal, so he can get to you. And take corrective action. So if there is anything needed to take the action, if anything there is needed to म्हणजे जर काही लागत असेल, जर काही करायचं असेल व्यवस्थित परत याच्यात, तर ते ऍक्शन तुम्हाला घ्यायचे आहेत, ठीक आहे? Method. So there are some different methods of performance appraisal. So there are basically two methods: traditional method and modern method. So traditional methods are very old methods, techniques of performance appraisal based on standard of personal qualities such as attitude, initiative, loyalty, knowledge of job, etc. And modern methods that we have learned in our last sem, that is 360 degree appraisal, MBO, management objective. Then we have bars. So let's take one by one look to them. So what is an essay method? Essay method is a way of evaluating an employee performance through the written narratives. So this involves the detailed description of employee strength, weaknesses, then achievements, aims, area of improvement, etc. So the major drawback of this method is the method that it mostly depends upon the supervisor's writing skills. So he lacks in some writing skills, then he will definitely not mention what you are good at, or he will not find the words that actually describe you that you are good at this particular thing. Next is ranking method. So again, let's again take the example, like if the Prajwal, Utkarsh and Prashant. So if they three are the employees. So if Prajwal is good, so he will rank as good performer, he will rank as 1. If followed by Utkarsh, he will rank as 2, and then followed by Prashant, he will rank as 3. So force distribution method. Force distribution method, also known as bell curve method. So basically, number of employees are plotted on y-axis, and you can see the average rating is from poor to excellent. So they divide the team which have particular task to perform. They divide it into a percentage who are good performers, who are poor performers, who are average performers, who are good performers, and they plot accordingly. GRS method, graphical rating scale. It is nothing but it's like a sheet where we have been rated from poor to excellent, and you have some traits. So according to that, you have been marked on that sheet, and at the end, your performance is calculated. And checklist method. Checklist method is nothing but GRS method and checklist method are done simultaneously. So there is nothing much different from GRS method. The difference is only you have to take care. So let's take a look at the modern methods of performance appraisal. The first method is 360 degree appraisal. So let's assume that Pumbaa is an organization. So now I have to calculate the performance appraisal of Jagruti. So we will first ask the question to top management. Top management, that means HOD man. Then we will prepare a questionnaire for immediate supervisor. Immediate supervisor is nothing but Chintamani sir. Then we will prepare a questionnaire or feedback form for the peers, that is we, all of us. And then we will prepare a questionnaire or feedback form for the subordinates, that are our juniors. Okay. Next is MBO method, management objective. So management objective is a performance appraisal method where employees and manager work together on a specific goals for the with the employees. Okay. So there are some methods of MBO. First is determining organization goals. Employees and organization or the managers should be aware of the organization goals. According to that, they should plan the strategy. Second is determining employees' objective. What are the employees' objective? That is the most important factor here. So third one is monitoring progress and performance. So what is the progress? What is the performance of the employee and the manager both? So they have to calculate it accordingly. For this performance evaluation, we have to evaluate the performance and then we have to provide feedback on that evaluation. And after that, there is a process of performance appraisal. Then the performance appraisal is released. Next is BARS. BARS stands for Behaviorally Anchored Rating Scales. So, best example for this is your psychometric test. So, the basic structure of the psychometric test is what? We have options like never, often, sometimes. So, that is the example of BARS method. And one thing that I found in Gary's Dessler book is 720-degree appraisal. This is nothing but carrying your 360-degree appraisal twice a year. So let's study a performance appraisal system in HCL Tech. So this is the introduction of a company. We all know about HCL Tech. It is leading in technological and it is also the global. It generates annual revenue of $6.4 billion.
Last 2 minutes.
Present performance appraisal system. The present performance appraisal system that is being followed by the company is managerial appraisal system. So the company is not following it frequently. It is followed only at the period of your training program or orientation program. So what is the procedure that they follow? So when a person enters to the firm, at the time of the training, he will be provided with the sheet appraisal. What are his aims? What are his objectives? What he want to achieve? So and after that they will just see what he has written and they will work on it. They will help the employee to achieve his objective goals and everything. So after that, the person will be trained in his area for work and he is entering the probationary period. So then after the completion of the probationary period, he will be again given an appraisal from a form where in this turn the appraisal form will be filled by the person himself and the department head will be confirm the position. So these are some reference. This is what from my side. If you have any questions, so we have still 1 minute left. Thank you. Abhishek.
This is for everyone. This is the kind of presentation when we are talking about the content on the slide that is expected out of you. Okay, so nice, I would say presentation, flow, transition of slides, and the various put up points. Okay, that it will come only out of practice. So more you practice and look at presentations, you will be able to do that. अभिषेक अजून थोडंसं स्टाईलवरती काम करायला पाहिजे, एक्सेंटवरती काम करायला पाहिजे, वोकॅब्युलरीवरती काम. बाकी इम्प्रूव्ह आहे. इथे झालंय काम एक तुमचं जास्त इम्पॉर्टंट. कारण याच्यामध्ये एक्सेंट घेऊन गेलं तर मग बरोबर ऑब्सेस ठेवू नका प्रेझेंटेशनला. पीपीटी शुड नॉट ओव्हरशॅडो यू. आता थोडंसं होतंय तसं. यू शुड ओव्हरशॅडो द हां किंवा हा भारी पीपीटी पण भारी. आता नुसतं पीपीटीच भारी असं थोडंसं होतंय. स्कोप आहे इम्प्रूव्हमेंट 20%.
Good morning, everyone. So, what happens when we usually go to shop at a market? Let's say you want to buy a shirt or any other clothes material. We go to a shop. We ask the shopkeeper what's the price. He says that okay, it's 1,000 rupees. Then what's the next thing we do? We either start to bargain, or second thing we do is we just tell him, "अरे वो next वाला तो 800 रुपये में दे रहा है, तो आप 1,000 कैसे बोल रहे हो?" So this is just a small scale example of how Porter's 5 forces model works in real life. So today we will take a deep dive into it and we'll try to understand how these concepts can help us in the future as management students. So before we start, who is Michael Porter? So Michael Porter is an American economist as well as a management scientist who proposed this theory in 1979, and he has more than 40 years of experiment in management, and currently he is employed at Harvard Business School as management professor. So these are the 5 forces which he gave in 1979 in his book after decades of research. So we will take a look at these forces one by one and we will try to understand what exactly they are and how they influence the business world. So the first force out of the 5 forces is competitive rivalry. So what it basically means is that how many number of competitors you have in the market. So in simplest terms, let's say if you have multiple number of competitors, then obviously you will have to fight for each and every customer. Your profit margin will be low and it will be affected in your business. On the other hand, if you have monopoly or if you control majority of the stake, it will be easier for you because the customer has no option, so he will have come to you to buy your product without any hesitation. So there are 2 examples which I have selected. First one is soft drink industry. So as you know, Coca-Cola and Pepsi both are the 2 major players, and since the number of competitors in this industry are very large, even though these 2 players contain majority of the stake, but you will find plenty of brands at your local level which are available at cheap prices. As a result, they are in battle since last 20-30 years. Their pricing strategy is almost similar, product range is almost similar, and you will find this product throughout the country. And they spend heavy on advertisement because since the competitors are more, they have to attract each and every customer. Another example is retail grocery industry, DMart versus Reliance Mart versus Star Bazaar. You will find that the products are almost similar in price, 2-3 rupees plus or minus. This happens again because competitors are large in number, plus there were competition from local kirana stores as well. As a result, you will see aggressive pricing as well as heavy spending on advertisement. The next force is threat of new entry. So what it basically tells us is that how easy is to enter in your business or in the sector in which you are already working. So for example, let's say if a sector is there in which the rules and regulations are not that strict, anyone can come, it's easy to set your infrastructure, you don't need much of a capital. So it is quite clear that companies will keep on coming since it's not very hard to start new business. On the other hand, if you have strict rules and regulations, you need high amount of capital as well as infrastructure to set the business, then obviously the number of competitors will be low because not everyone can raise that sort of money to enter in the business. The 2 best examples are, first one is pharmaceutical industry. Here you will see that you need high amount of expenditure on research and development. Without research and development, you don't have any drugs. If you don't have drugs, you don't have any product to sell. So basically your business is nil even before you start. You need distribution network to sell all those medicine as well as you need help from retailers. So as a result, this is an industry which demands very high capital. So it's very difficult to enter. Second example is airline industry. Airline industry is one of those industries which operate on very thin margin. As a result, you don't see many players, and even if you see companies, trying to enter, they won't survive for long. The top 3 companies which are here, Emirates, Qatar, and Etihad, they are backed by countries which are, wealthy in terms of their oil resources. This is the only reason why these 3 companies are surviving, because you need, first of all, you need high amount of capital because airplanes are not easy. All the people who work in the airline industry, they are highly paid workers. Like no one in the industry is working at a lower cost. So you have that expenses as well. Plus maintenance of the aircraft is very expensive. So as a result, new player cannot enter in this industry, and even if he enters, it is very difficult for him to survive. Rate of substitution. So how easy is to substitute your product with your competitor's product is nothing but rate of substitution. Substitution happens when products are priced similarly and customer feels that both the companies are offering similar experience and there is nothing different in them. So the best example is fast food industry, McDonald's versus Burger King, Pizza Hut versus Domino's. They are almost priced similar. So if you don't find the Domino's outlet, you go to Pizza Hut outlet because you know that it's priced similar. You will get same experience at the end of the day. Another example is streaming services, Netflix versus Prime. You see few movies, some of the movies you like on Netflix, you subscribe to it. Later you find out that okay, Prime is also offering the same content at similar price. So what customer does? Immediately switches to your competitor. Bargaining power of the supplier. So every business needs suppliers which supply all the raw materials or sometimes intermediate product as well, because currently there is no OEM which manufactures start to end product under the house. Everyone is outsourcing. So here suppliers play a major role. So in case of supplier, what happens? They want to supply less but at a higher cost because that's how they get money. So if your supplier is someone who is supplying you something which is not readily available in the market, then he gains power because he knows that you don't have any other option than him. So he will keep on bargaining on his side. He will keep on luring you into more expensive contract. The best example of bargaining power supplier is semiconductor industry. There are currently only 10 to 15 companies at world level which manufacture chips for your gaming console, laptop, smartphones, desktop. So as a result, they have high bargaining power. For example, if Nvidia decides to increase the prices of graphic card by 50%, there is nothing which you can do. If you are a Dell or HP, you have to pay that money back because there is no alternative available for you. So as a result here, these suppliers have a very high amount of bargaining power and they decide the whole course of the industry because they are less in number, the competition is less, as a result they have upper hand as compared to OEM. Another example is automotive industry. So here some suppliers they have no bargaining power at all because many people, for example nut bolt, lot of companies do that. But on the other hand, there are some suppliers who have high bargaining power. For example, those who manufacture electronics from China. Why? Because there are very few suppliers which can manufacture that quality, and we experienced that during COVID. The automotive production came to halt. Why? Because there was no supply of electronics from China. The last force is bargaining power of the buyer. So what happens if the number of buyers are low compared to the number of suppliers, then a condition arises which is called as bargaining power. So here customer dictates the rule. Customer decides the pricing. Customer will will force you to change your product as compared to other way around, where you decide how you want to design your product, how you want to price it. So there are two examples. Again, smartphone industry, we all have seen this example. So here, if you don't price your smartphone according to the market, you will see that the smartphone don't sell very well. But on the other hand, we can take example of Xiaomi and Redmi, who have succeeded in short amount of time. Why? Because they price their smartphones at a price point which was expected by the customers. As a result, they were able to succeed in a short amount of time. Another thing is, as I told earlier as well, retail industry. Customer dictates the price. If you increase the price of the item, customer won't buy it. As a result, you have to price according to customer. So these are the 5 forces of Porter. So pros, so these forces help you in comprehensive analysis. They give you an overview about the industry in which you want to enter, or you are already working, but you are facing some competition, your profits are going low. So it can help you in decision making. Since you are doing analysis, you will get an idea what to do, what not to do. Strategic insight, if you want to make some changes in your business, or if you want to launch new products, this will certainly help you. There are some negatives as well. It is a very simplified view. The corporate world is changing, businesses are changing. As a result, it's not that easy as it is told in the theory. And it does not focus on internal factors. Like you see, all these factors are external. It does not talk about your company's resources, your workforce, quality, their knowledge. So these are the things which are completely ignored in this theory. And no account for technology. Since this theory was proposed in 1980s, at that time technology was not yet developed. As a result, you won't find any account for technology at all in these 5 courses of models. Thank you.
Uttar, just one clarification. Go back. Back. Just for logging. Just for the benefit of the group, when we are talking about the substitutes, then Burger King and McDonald's are not going to be substitute. Okay? Joshi whatever name is going to be the substitute. If you are talking about coffee, Yevole will be the substitute. Okay? Substitute need not always mean that he is of inferior quality or having a low price. It could also mean that the substitute could be of a higher price. For example, if someone wants to wear gold, a substitute for gold could be platinum, right? Need not necessarily be silver. Okay, it could be a higher value substitute. Okay, English. Next, English बरोबर आहे. स्टाईल प्रॅक्टिस नाही होणार नाही नाहीतर गडबड.